As far as like, kind of branching out and stuff, I'll never forget. My dad, he was, I think it was the same program he was watching, and he saw something where someone was like, on TV, and they were like, you need to teach your kids, you need to, train them up in the things of God, all this stuff. And he remembers that, like, he just felt in his spirit, like, wow, like I really need to like up the game with my kids. Like, it's more than just taking them to church every single week. Like, I swear we did not miss, like never, never, never. Like my dad gets on people now for like brunch and like missing church. I'm telling you, he lives what he preaches.
Wow.
We would not miss a Wednesday or a Sunday. Like, we were always in church. So I'll never forget when he came to us and he was like, hey, so like, I kind of feel like God's calling me out. I'm going to talk to the pastor and I'm going to kind of like let him know that I think I'm going to be like, stepping out and stuff. And by this time we had just started the Bible study at our house, and he had went to our previous pastor and told him like, what God kind of put on his heart and everything. And the pastor gave him the okay to start the Bible study.
Yeah.
So we started this on Thursday nights, and it was only 8 of us, very small in my living room. Those days were so cool. I know where my dad's teaching on revival right now and stuff. So he'll mention, like back in the day and stuff like that. And I'll never forget those early days. Like, it was like 8 of us, and then it went to like 12, and then it just kind of grew from there. But from there, he was just like, hey, like this is really growing. By that time, I think we were hitting up to like 100 people one time, like in my house on a Thursday night. And this was just like a regular Bible study, but people just started coming and stuff. We started moving my mom's furniture out, and it just became a whole thing. And we were really seeing revival, honestly, in our house. But it started getting so big, and then my dad was just like, he told the pastor, I remember, like, he didn't get a lot of support at that time. And that was hurtful, to be honest. Like, I'll just be, like, straight, like, this is against the grain. Come on. Like, we're just going to be honest. Like, it hurt because we were raised in our previous church and stuff. And it's so cool. Like I said, we're good now. We went back and just led worship there. 10 years later, we actually got invited back. That's so crazy.
That's awesome.
But so we're good now and stuff, right? But at the time, it just kind of hurt because like a lot of people, I'm not just talking about like the pastors or anything, but even just like church members, people that like we were in this church for 20 years.
Yeah.
Like people that we were raised with, that I grew up with since the nursery. Like no one left this. A lot of people didn't leave that like churches back then. I feel like now it's kind of like common to see people jump around and stuff, but everyone, like we all were raised from like the nursery all through like, our 20 years or whatever.
Wow.
So anyways, like I remember like other people that were just like talking about us and stuff, saying things like, what are they doing? I remember it was a thing of like, we started getting like words that we were probably like a cult and like, I don't know, just like stupid little stuff, right? Like comments and like, it was just new to them. And then we started getting through like, all of a sudden, like the Spirit of God started moving. So there was like deliverance and these things that we never heard of. We've only heard of, but never experienced.
Yeah.
Right. So it just hurt to hear some of these like things, you know what I mean? But I'll never forget when my dad was just like, yeah, like, but we were still attending our previous church at the time. And then that's when he hit us with like, hey, God's calling me out. And I was like, where are you going to go to church at? Like, we don't even have a church. Like, there's just a Bible study on Thursday nights. Like, what are you going to do on a Sunday? And he's like, I don't know. But God's just like, he's calling me out. I talked to the pastor already. Like, I'm stepping out. And I was so mad. My dad's going to laugh at me. On this. Because I remember telling him one time we kind of got into it. And I remember like, our previous youth leader, because Andrea and I, my wife, Andrea, shout out to Andrea,
Yeah.
but my wife and I, like we were youth leaders at the time, and we were under a youth pastor, and I remember at the time that the youth pastor found out about the Bible study, and he was one of them that was just like he wasn't supportive at all. We basically we got called into a meeting and we got basically kicked out of our leadership roles because of this Bible study. Yeah. And I'm telling you, these are people that we've done life with for 20 years. And all of a sudden we just started getting backlash like crazy. So check this out, right? So so he's like, he calls us into a meeting and was like, hey, like there's a lot going on right now. Like you guys are starting this whole other thing. And I was like, wait a minute, like slow down. Like my dad already talked to the senior pastor. They're cool. He was cool with it. Now it's blowing up. My dad's stepping out. Like we're doing everything right. Like we're not trying to like steal people or anything like that. Like we didn't even have a church at the time. There was no Harvest Time Church. It was just a Bible study.
Yeah.
So like, I want people to like know that because, like there was no HTC at all at this time. But he was like, no, like we don't like it. Like you guys are just doing too much. You guys are too spiritual now. Like all these accusations, he's like, we're taking you down. I remember like literally like crying because I'm just like, I felt like the end was coming. I knew that we were gonna have to get out of that church. I'll never forget. Andrea's gonna laugh at me too when she watches this because I told her one time. She asked me, when like things were barely kicking off, she asked me like, do you ever see yourself leaving like our previous church? And I was like, heck no, I was born here. I'm gonna get back. I didn't got baptized yet. I was like, I'm gonna get baptized here and I'm gonna have my funeral here. I was like, no one's gonna take me out. I was so prideful. Like, yeah, I was so down for this church, right?
Dang.
So anyway, so I never forget when we got kind of like, they stepped us down, and then when I felt God was like calling us out, I'll never forget that, because I was like, I can't believe this is happening. Like, it was kind of a scary thing because we were so comfortable.
Yeah.
Like, that's the biggest thing. So last thing I'll share on that was like, my dad and I, we got into it like a couple weeks later, something happened, and he'll laugh at this, 'cause I'll never forget. I was like, we got into it, and I was just like, you know what? I was like, and we have a different relationship now. Our relationship's good, but back then I was like, you know what? I was like, you're lucky. Like, you're lucky you have me. I was like, and we were talking about something about the ministry, right? We just started. I was like, you're lucky you have me. I was like, because of you. I was so upset with them. I was like, because of you. I was like, people hate us because of you. Like, people are saying all this stuff about our family and everything. I was like, you better treat me right. Like, this is all your fault. Like, I literally said that to him because I felt at the time, like, I forgot something happened. And I felt like, dude, like, I'm doing all this. We're doing all this for you. Like, this is your move. And like, we're getting all this backlash. You know what I mean? Like, you better like, appreciate me or something. Right.
Yeah.
And now I look back and I'm like, man, that's so messed up for me to say. And I've apologized. We're good now. He laughs at me now. But he'll bring that up sometimes. He's like, you remember? Because, we have everything we have now and everything.
Yeah.
Like, things are booming. And he's just like, remember what you said, though? Like, it was all my fault. Like, you didn't want to come. And I was just like, yeah, I was just crazy. So anyways, that's just kind of like early memories I have. But it was a struggle. It was wild. But it's just all about, we were just comfortable.